The Rewind Sports.
Sports 60. From the city of big shoulders, the jewel of the Midwest, comes a sports show that's one of a kind. From iconic players to iconic stadiums to iconic teams, this is my kind of town. Chicago! And the Rewind Sports 60 is my kind of show. From Air Jordan to Sweetness to Papa Bear Hallis, this city works hard, but plays even harder. Danny Carlino and Jerry Riles bring you the Rewind Sports 60. Live. The Rewind Sports 60 starts now.
Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Rewind Sports 60. We're broadcasting from the world's famous Serenello's Ristorante Italiano right here in the heart of Wheeling. This is our Chicago Bears post-game podcast from the candle room of the world's famous Serenello's Ristorante Italiano. This is the Rewind Sports 60. Let's get right to our esteemed panel because there's a lot of Bear conversation to discuss. The Bears win it in San Francisco, and boy, do we have a lot to talk about. I'm Jerry Riles, and let's go out to the one, the only. Ladies and gentlemen, he's the Italian Stallion. He's DC. He's Danny Carlino. What's up, DC?
Good evening, Jerry. So how did you catch any of the highlights of the fight there? Did you? I mean,
you know what? I caught just the start of it. Well, actually, the tail end of it, because I had to jet over here and get everything set up. But I heard about it, and I saw a little bit pieces here and there, but wow.
I tell you, it's a lot easier to swing wildly when you have a 300-pound man between you and the guy you're trying to hit. I know I think pretty much all three guys that got thrown out eventually tried to do the, hey, you can block for me while I try to swing at people.
Right. Who was trying to be the peacemaker there? I'm trying. Who was Kyle?
You should be the last guy getting involved in this.
Exactly.
Get the hell! I was like, get back.
Exactly. I don't know, man. You know what? You gotta. It was a street fight, so to speak, as far as this outcome was concerned. The Bears win it by a score of 14-9 to go up and improve their record to 11-4.
I think they, not only because of the playing conditions, but you mentioned the street fight. They may have been better if they had played in the parking lot.
Who would have benefited? San Francisco?
Everybody, the game, everything, because it was a bit of a mess.
Yeah, it was. It wasn't the prettiest game, that's for sure. But the Bears were able to hang on and get the victory. I thought it was going to come down to Robbie Gold, deciding it. But
well, it could have.
Yeah.
Because they that turnover late, and maybe they only needed another field goal.
Yeah,
it could have been a repeat of last year.
And ladies and gentlemen, joining us in the candle room here at Serenello's Ristorante, the marvelous one. He is Dan Marber. What's up, Dan?
Well, I feel like I'm the man on the street today, but I'll tell you what. Considering San Francisco was playing for nothing, it's like the old joke. There was a fight in a football game broke out about hockey, right? So, I'm glad they won, and that keeps the momentum going, and they go with Minnesota next week.
Yeah, it's a big game next week against the Minnesota Vikings up in Minnesota.
Might play them twice in a row.
You never know. You never know. But the Bears and Matt Nagy, they're vying for the number 2 seed in NFC Central. We'll see what happens as things continue to unfold for the final exciting week of National Football playoffs. Contentions are in the air, but definitely looking forward to a lot of great playoff action. Chicago Bears, they're going to get their act together if they want to try to extend this thing to go to the NFC Championship title game, because on the road, they're not doing so well. Home, yeah, they're doing good, but when they get on the road, it's getting a little bit iffy there for the Chicago Bears. Ladies and gentlemen, on our TRS60 hotline, he's the one, the only, the best actor, the best entertainer, the best comedian. Ladies and gentlemen, he's just Chicago's very own, the best there is. He's the one, the only. He's Kelly Lee Williams! What's up, Kelly?
Singer. Don't forget singer. I am also an excellent singer. Don't ever forget that.
We will never forget that, that's for sure.
50
laughs.
Bears. Loving what's going on right now. Yes, it was a scare today. The 49ers are playing good football. At the end of this year, they're actually gelling under the coach Kyle Shanahan, and with Dick Mullins under the dang helm, and they were still close the entire game. But the Bears did what they had to do. They got the win. Now they get out of there and get ready for the Vikings season finale next week. Loving my Bears team, y'all.
You know what? A lot of Chicagoans are loving this Bear football team, and again, 11 wins on just a year ago when we were in the cellar. And this Matt Nagy and his coaching staff along with Vic Fangio. A lot of press this past week, but they've really gotten these guys to play some football, play some team football, play some unity football, and pick each other up. And man, no one thought about it. We thought maybe, hey, if they get 9 wins, maybe 10 wins, but they potentially can get 12 wins on this season, and what an accomplishment for this entire team. And we really thrilled. Yeah, it wasn't a pretty game in San Francisco. It was, it was a close one. We didn't want it to be that close with the defense that we have, but the Bears were able to prevail, and they go on to win 14-9. What were some of the highlights in this football game? Carlino, we'll start with you. That you saw, if you could say there were some highlights.
It was just an odd affair because it was just said that the Bears still have something to play for, even though it's not totally in their control, and the Niners don't. But Nick Mullins is playing to show that maybe he can make more than what I heard. He's making about 100. I don't want to say just, but considering the guy that he's backing up is making significantly more than him, and he's been out since week 2, 3, about 129,000 that Mr. Mullins is making, and to take a team that was pretty much decimated by that injury, and they have had other injuries, still have a fairly young coach who was just trying to get, hey, now we have our franchise quarterback. We played a little bit better the last couple games, and Jimmy G was 4-0 coming in from last year. There was a lot of turmoil in San Francisco, and you got a Bears team that is playing for something, but not fully in their control. And as you said, the road, I don't want to call them woes, but more like whoa. This isn't quite the same. So not bad, but a little muddled at best. And so many delays in the games. There were reviews of reviews.
Right.
I mean, it was just, even without the fight. I mean, that was the most dramatic of all of them. But so many calls changed, overturned, challenges. I mean, I don't know if the game provided an odd rhythm or that other stuff kind of got in the way of a rhythm ever being created in today's game. I think that messed up everything. But I mean, the 49ers acquitted themselves fairly well, but the Bears buckled down as best they could when the 49ers got in scoring position, and that was the tale of the game. They got that big lucky bounce, and Gervaison's waiting there for that pick, because otherwise that's
right.
They at least get inch closer, or maybe they go for it altogether because it was
exactly.
later in the game. So that was certainly the turning point. Whether it's by hook or by crook, great play, a little bit of a lucky bounce, what have you. And every team that succeeds at the end, you can look at countless times where bounces went their way or calls went their way. Is that a sign of what's to come, or is that just we'll take it for now? But when you look back, every team has those, and that continued today for the Bears.
Yeah, Dan, Marvelous Marver, I don't know what to take away from this football game, because this is, I mean, that's just one thing you could take away, that the fact that they won this football game.
Defense, and I see Trubisky was 25 of 29, 246.
Yeah, like 12
that's
in a
pretty
row
good.
at one point, I believe.
Right, exactly.
That's a good takeaway.
Yeah, it is. But what I'm concerned about and kind of leery about is the fact that teams like this, and we know what happened when the Miami game. I thought they easily should have won that football game coming off the bye week. But a team like San Francisco on the road, you got to put them away, especially before the final week of the regular season and in anticipation of going to the playoffs. This is a game that the Bears should have certainly put them away early and got some rest or whatever. Not to have to go down to the wire like that.
They were behind at halftime. You're right. They should have put them away. So. But they didn't.
No, they didn't. They didn't. Kelly Lee Williams, your thoughts?
I'm sorry.
What?
Was this 49ers team the same team that beat the Seahawks last week?
Probably.
Yeah, but those
Right?
Seahawks weren't too happy with
Right.
But Pete Carroll complains about everything, so I really don't care.
Doesn't matter. They beat the Seahawks. Seahawks are fighting for the playoffs too, and the 49ers beat them. The 49ers are the best 4-11 team that you're going to see. This young team, this defense is going to be hell next year, because that's what's keeping this 49ers team in these games. They have no offense, zero. They can score field goals, but no touchdowns, as you can see here. The defense kept them in the game. Richard Sherman was not tested the entire game. There was nothing thrown his way. This team has a great defense. Bears were lucky to get out of there with a victory. I mean, don't count out this 49ers defense. Yeah, they're 4-11, but this wasn't an easy game.
Yeah, but this is a game. I mean, regardless, they're still a 4-11 football team, and you got to handle business. If you're talking about not only advancing to the NFC Championship title game, but also trying to see if you can make it to the Super Bowl, because Tariq Cohen, and we'll get a chance to talk about the 5 Bear players who were named to the Pro Bowl and the 7 alternates, but Tariq Cohen earlier this week said, you know what, no one wants to play in the Pro Bowl. We're focusing and concentrating on the Super Bowl. And when you talk like that, you can't go on the road the 15th week of the regular season and squeak one out against a 4-11 football team. You simply can't do that. You've got to play some football, and you got to get your team poised and ready for the playoffs, in my opinion.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can do that, because the Bears just did it. They just did it, and they still won the game. That's what matters. The W wins. Winning on the road is hard any time in the NFL. That old adage, any given Sunday. The 49ers beat the Seahawks last week. The Bears could have lost this game very easily, but they did not.
Exactly.
They made mistake after mistake after mistake, but they won the game. This team is 11-4. This team last year was what, 5-11, right? 5-11, 4-12.
Yeah, 5-11.
They stunk. We will give this team the benefit of the doubt in games like this, because they're still learning. They're still young together with this rookie head coach and the quarterback that hasn't played more than 30 games as an NFL quarterback.
No, I get that.
This is still a learning team, and this team gets the benefit of the doubt in my book, because the 49ers did beat the Seahawks, a playoff-bound team, possibly, last week.
But now you're blowing the horn, and the Seahawks are on the outside looking in to see if they can get a prayer and an answer to get into the playoffs themselves. So it's not like this is the Super Bowl Seattle Seahawks of Russell Wilson that we're talking about. The Seahawks, they're not an elite team the way they used to be, or a dominant team the way they used to be.
They're hard
Still
to
the Seahawks. Still the Seahawks. Still Russell Wilson at the quarterback. Still Pete Carroll at the helm. They're still a dangerous team.
And they are in the playoffs if the season ended today. Seattle.
Right, but so, I mean, I get it. But again, Kelly, Danny, Carlino, Marvelous, if you're going to take something away from this game, yeah, a win is a win. But I guarantee you, and we will be listening to Matt Nagy and his coaching staff throughout the week on local radio, and we'll get a chance to hear some of the post-game comments as far as the athletes are concerned. I'm sure, after that big victory we had last week, I'm sure these guys say, hey, you know what? We didn't play it to our best ability. We didn't play up to our potential. San Francisco, no disrespect to them, but we're a much better football team. I'm sure we're going to have some comments like that this week.
Well, especially because there's still something to play for within the season, because even though they struggled out of the bye against Miami, just the differentiation, and because it's very difficult to win on the road, you'd like to get that home game in the second round if you can at all scrap that across it. So you hope against hope that the 49ers bring the same effort to the Coliseum next week when they play the Rams, and you take care of business up in the bank house over there, up there in Minnesota. But one thing, as far as to compliment the 49ers, I mean, and as Kelly Lee alluded to with their young defense, I mean, Trubisky, and it was most notably on the play that started the fight, his escapability wasn't used as much. He was limited in that. They didn't really let him break any big ones like he's done in the past. And they only moved the ball maybe on their 2 touchdown drives and maybe 1 or 2 other possessions. So they really held the Bears in check. They really couldn't, whether they were a little bit conservative because for whatever reason, being on the road and what have you. Obviously, the dogs agree.
Who let the dogs
I don't know. Kelly did, but they kept them somewhat in check. So I don't know if they were just being a little conservative and the game went the way it went, or was it because the 49ers kind of maybe a little bit hogtied other different weapons the Bears had.
Well, maybe it's the 4-win teams. I mean, on the road. The Giants were a 4-win team on the road.
That's the kryptonite of the Bears. Luckily for the Bears, they won't be facing any 4-win teams in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So they've got that out of the way.
No, if we see Mitchell Trubisky roll out with the pass to Miller, the 4-yard touchdown strike, the Bears again, and Dan Marvelous Marvin made note that the Bears actually were trailing at halftime, and they had to put it out, 2-yard touchdown run in the second half for Jordan Howard. And that's one thing that I thought in the overall coaching regarding Matt Nagy is that, in my opinion, I would have ran Howard more. I would have just given him the rock, and I just would have said, hey, workhorse.
The sloppy field, I think.
Yeah. 13 carries.
It was a very sloppy field. Everybody was slipping on that field. The Bears had to make sure they had the right spikes out there to make sure they don't fall on that field.
They should have put skates on.
13 carries, 53 yards, 1 touchdown for Jordan Howard. But he was making progress running the rock. So I would have just rammed it between the tackles and say, hey, stop me if you can.
And Cohen only had 12 yards.
Exactly.
Well, that's why Matt Nagy's the coach. Because if you just go ahead and do that, they're probably going to be one-dimensional, and 49ers maybe have a better chance. Nagy didn't do that. He put the game in the hands of Mitchell Trubisky.
And you know what? And we almost lost the game in the hands of Trubisky. The turnover, the miscommunication there, where he flared it out to Tariq Cohen, and the San Francisco 49ers were able to recover. Right, a fumble there, and then the other INT that was in the end zone, and without a bonehead play by the corner on that play, there's an INT and stops the Bears' drive. So I mean, Matt Nagy is calling the shots. But some of those plays that he was calling, and he admitted that he had to go into the locker room and make better decisions as far as calling plays for this football game, because I'm sick and tired of it. I really am. I love the creative juices. I love the offenses are trying things, but I am sick and tired of Matt Nagy with all these trick plays.
You don't want any more Hollywood Trotter stuff?
No.
I'm sick of it. Just play football, man.
No, they are playing football, and the fact that they're 11-4 means they're playing great football. And you let that Bears coach do whatever the heck he wants if he's going 11-4.
So let me ask you this question:
you run every trick play you want. You get my grandmother out in the damn field and you run a play. I don't give a dang. 11-4.
Okay.
Man.
So what is that? Here's the $1 million question: what does that mean if the Bears are eliminated in the first round of the playoffs?
It means they go back in next year and try again. This is a rookie head coach. They were 5-11 last year. The quarterback has only played less than 30 games in his career, and they're 11-4. I'm giving them every single benefit of the doubt because nobody expected them to be here. And I'm not going to say sick and tired of anything. I love it. I love every single minute of this team,
of this
defense, of this offense, of Matt Nagy, of call playing, everything. Love it. Bear down, Chicago Bears.
Marvelous.
I mean, the trick plays were intriguing. You know, with the linemen catching passes and rushing for touchdowns. You know, I mean, and if it works, it works. I mean, like Kelly says, 11-4 speaks for itself.
Yep, exactly. 11-4. That's all you got to say. Trick plays. Shut up. 11-5. NFC champions.
Carlino.
Get off.
Carlino.
Now, I can see it on both sides, but you know
don't do that both sides.
No.
Don't you dare do that both sides.
Kelly, let him get in.
I can understand.
Charlotte, both sides.
I can understand. You know, anytime you got an 11-win team and you've clinched the playoff, we clinched the division with 2 games to go. Considering what had been the previous 8 years, only 1 year was remotely decent out of those 8 years. You take what you get, and I agree with Kelly as far as giving them the benefit of the doubt. There's so much newness and so much beyond expectations of anyone outside of the locker room, I would think, that they've already accomplished. They're at least 3 games beyond that what anyone that had any idea about this team that isn't wearing the C on their helmet every Sunday could have thought. But the fact that it seems a lot of those trick plays are not. I mean, they had the touchdown against the Rams, which was huge because that game was so low scoring. But outside of that, the last 4 or 5 games that. You know, okay, you had the Giants one, but that was such a goofy ending to the game anyway.
Right.
Anything was possible, but they're not reaping this kind of the same rewards at that point, and plus they eventually lost the game anyhow.
Exactly.
So I think that's why I can understand what Kelly's thinking, because I don't care what kind of plays he's calling. When they're winning the games, you got to give them at least a little benefit of the doubt. But when a law of diminishing returns,
exactly.
At some point, and plus that's also part of the trick play is not that the fact we're doing a trick play is because you may have never seen this one before. You do one every week. Your playbook starts to run dry, you know, and the team, especially if they don't get the bye that first week, the team you're going to be playing the next week has been waiting for you for 2 weeks, and they've watched every one of your trick plays.
Right. And that's the thing, real quick. That's the thing, and that's why I say it's a concern of mine, because when you get into the playoff now, those opponents. The Saints aren't going to be falling for this BS. If you meet the Rams again, they're going to be lights out. These top-notch teams will not be falling for all this tomfoolery and this cute stuff.
Well, the Rams really shouldn't because they already had it on them.
Right.
But they're going to lace them up, strap them up, get out there, and they're going to play hard-nosed football for 60 minutes. And if you make mistakes because you want to try to be cute. Now, I get the Akeem Hicks when you put him on the goal line and you let. I get it, refrigerated square, whatever. I can work with that. But when you start trying to do these other fancy things in the playoffs, I promise you, because the difference is, it will literally come down to 1, 2, maybe 3 plays that will decide an outcome in these playoff games. And if you try to get cute in the playoffs against some of these high caliber teams, you're going home. You're packing your bags.
But you don't want them to be afraid to pull one out of the bag either, because that's kind of what they do.
But usually, the rule of thumb, when you, and we're going to take a short time out here, broadcasting from Serenello's Ristorante Italiano here in Wheeling. Typically, when you start running trick plays, it's usually saying to the opponent that you've exhausted everything else, or you can't do anything, and you got to come up with something that the opponent hasn't seen to try to trick them, to try to get some momentum.
I mean, not the case here, because Matt Nagy has proven that these are not trick plays for him. These are merely plays.
Well, those are trick plays, Kelly.
All these plays have led to an 11-4 record. 11-4 after 4 and 11 after 4.
You've heard this before. If it looks like a pig, if it walks like a pig, smells like a pig,
put it on a
it's a pig. A trick play is a trick play, man.
This pig is 11-4, and you give him the benefit of the doubt. You do not question the man, a rookie head coach, after going 11-4 in his first 15 games.
Hey, Kelly, is he a rookie head coach? Is he a rookie head coach with a sophomore quarterback who's only played 30 games? Help me out here. I don't think that's etched in my brain yet.
Well, you should etch it. You should pretty much put it in there in stone. Get the permanent marker, write it on your forehead. 30. Quarterback hasn't played 30 games yet. Rookie head coach, 11-4 Bears.
Folks, we're going to take this short time out. Go ahead, Carlino.
There was one thing that has been consistent from last year to this year. Last year, they were actually pretty good trick plays, too. Right. That was the only way they'd ever score.
That's my point. That's my point.
And they're saving the Trey Burton pass play for the Super Bowl.
Folks, keep it locked in. When we come back, talk more about the Chicago Bears' 14-9 victory over the lowly San Francisco 49ers out on the left coast. The Bears improved their mark to 11-4. You've got the Rewind Sports 60, Jerry Riles, Danny Carlino, the Italian Stallion, Dan Marvelous Marver, and on our TR60 hotline, folks, he's the one, he's the only, he's Kelly Lee Williams! More coming up on the Rewind Sports 60 right after this short timeout. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Rewind Sports 60. Yours truly, Jerry Riles. We're broadcasting from the Candle Room here at Serenello's Ristorante Italiano in Wheeling, joined by Dan Marvelous Marver, Danny Carlino, the Italian Stallion, and, of course, the man on the street. He is Marty B. And on our TRS60 hotline, the one, the only, he's a singer, entertainer, comedian, actor. He's Kelly Lee Williams! And joining us also on the TRS60 hotline, he's our TR60 correspondent, contributor. He's Gabe Salgado. Gabe, what's up? How are you?
Good evening, gentlemen. How are you?
Gabe!
Gabe, are you a singer too, or no?
Huh?
Are you a singer too, Gabe, or no?
Yes, he is.
No, I am not.
What we should do then, we should combine your talents with Kelly's, and you can have Kelly sing one of your articles.
We can be the new Milli Vanilli.
Or better yet, I got a better idea. Kelly sings and I rap. How about that?
Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, just to let you guys know, if you guys, Kelly, I was gonna reach out to you. I haven't had a chance to, but I'm gonna ask you right now on the Rewind Sports 60 during our Chicago Bears post-game podcast. We're gonna take a break from sports conversation next week to close out the 2018 season and to welcome in 2019 here at Serenello's. And Marty B and I have been brainstorming, and we're going to bring in a couple musical acts to treat us. We'll have some food and a few beverages on tap, and we just want to enjoy each other and enjoy some nice music and singing. So Kelly, if you're interested, if you want to join us, we'd love for you to put on a little performance for us, maybe sing 2 or 3 songs and help us enjoy the festive evening here at Serenello's next Sunday.
And one of those songs will be the Bear Down song. We will be singing about Chicago and bringing Frank Sinatra, My Kind of Town. My kind of town, Chicago is. Yes, absolutely, I'll be there, brother.
Swing, baby, swing.
Hey, Gabe, before we get into our conversation regarding the upcoming bowl games that many of us here in the Chicagoland area will have our eyes and ears locked on. Of course, the Northwestern Wildcats will be taking on Utah, and of course the Final Four playoff game where Notre Dame will be showcasing. What was your thoughts on the Chicago Bears victory over the San Francisco 49ers earlier today out in San Francisco, 14-9?
Well, I knew it wasn't going to be easy. You take a look at how the Bears have struggled against the Niners, especially in the Bay Area since 1989. This is only their second win on the 49ers home turf since 1989. They're now 7-9 overall against the Niners since 1989. That does include a playoff game, but you knew it wasn't going to be easy, but the defense stepped up when it needed to.
No, they certainly did step up when they needed to, but it was. Are you concerned about next week going to Minnesota to take on a hungry Vikings team?
You know what? I'll be honest with you. As much fun as I've had watching the Bears, you have to be concerned every week because again, everything is still pretty much new with this team. Yes, they clinched the division, but just like you said, the Minnesota's going to be hungry. They're fighting for their playoff lives. San Francisco was definitely on upset mode. You take a look at how they've played quite well over the last few games since they put in Nick Mullins at quarterback, and there's still playoff picture to be sorted out here. Bears still have a chance at first round bye. Los Angeles Rams, not St. Louis, but
right.
Next thing you know, they're going to move to another city in like another 20 years. So who knows?
Yeah.
But the Rams are trying to keep pace ahead of the Bears so they can hang on to that second seed and keep the first round bye for themselves. And you still have a bunch of teams that are trying to fight for the last couple of playoff spots here. So Minnesota's among that group, and it's going to be on their home field, and they're definitely going to be amped up and motivated in front of the home crowd. Minnesota still has a solid defense to work with. Their offense has been concerning lately, but they still have a defense that they can lean on. And you take a look at how the Bears haven't done a whole lot offensively these last few weeks. If you look at the scores over the last few weeks, I wouldn't say they've been stagnated, but they've definitely gone up against some defenses that have been able to limit their offensive output. And that's kind of I think the biggest concern for the Bears at this point will be how they can perform on offense, especially in Minnesota and the Dome there.
Well, that's the whole thing, and Mitch Trubisky, and we're on with Gabe Salgado, our TRS60 contributor and supporter of the Rewind Sports 60. But that's again, and we were talking about it. Kelly is convinced, and he predicted that the Bears should come away, I think, at least a 14-point victory against the Minnesota Vikings up in Minnesota. But they're hungry. They're playing in that dome, and they want to continue to play some football past Week 16. And
Can I clarify that? Can I clarify that when I said they would do that?
Yes, of course.
All right. Like Marty said, like we were talking about, the Bears played down. The Bears played down, very down, down to their competition, the 49ers. Yeah, 49ers, they stayed in the game. Bears got to let them stay in the game, but they did get that victory. And now they're pissed off too because they knew they should have beaten them bigger and harder and better than what they did. They're going into Minnesota with their ears back, and they're going in guns blazing, man. They're going in hard. Akeem Hicks and Khalil Mack, those dudes are going to just tear the offensive line apart. Kirk Cousins is going to be running all day. That's why I say that the Bears are going to beat them hard.
Yeah.
I will say this about the Bears. They've done the right thing by not, just settling for what they got and, letting the starters rest the last couple weeks. They realize that there are still other things to play for. There's small things to some degree, but, the fact that they keep, letting the starters go out there and do what they do best, and that does show you how serious the Bears are taking these last couple of games. So that's definitely a plus side. But, I'd like to hope that Kelly's correct, that they'll go in there and they'll do their job. But Minnesota's fighting for their playoff lives, and when it comes down to Week 17, crazier things have happened.
Yeah, I agree with you, Gabe. I just think that there's too much on the line for the Minnesota Vikings to just let the Bears come in and do what they want. And again, I think the dome with the noise is going to be a factor. I think if the Bears don't do some signal callings or quick snaps or no huddles, I think it's going to be very difficult at some points throughout that football game for Mitchell Trubisky and the cadence calls. I think it's going to be too difficult for the offensive line to hear. The receivers, they're going to have to work on some things this week in order to prepare for not only the football team on the field, but to that fan base up there in Minnesota as well. Guys, we're going to switch gears and go to some college football because there's a lot of football in the air, and this is the time of year, the holiday season, where it's time to go bowling. And Marty B, the man on the street, has been glued to his television set, checking out as many games as he possibly can. And Marty, along with Gabe Salgado, he's been watching a lot as well. And we're going to get a preview on the Notre Dame game and, of course, the Northwestern football game coming up on the 29th. But, Marty, let's start with you. What are your feedback on some of these bowl games that you've been watching?
My gosh, I am just enthralled, ladies and gentlemen. Unfortunately, some of the games, because of business commitments, I haven't been able to catch. But yesterday and today, I have made a concentrated effort to really concentrate on these games. And God bless ESPN. And Dan, you clued me in that if I miss something, I can catch it either the next day, that night, whenever.
Usually in ESPNU.
Yeah, and that's what I did. The first game I would like to talk a little bit about is that Wake Forest-Memphis game yesterday. That was really something. And the best part of the seconds. They went 70 yards on 6 plays, scored, converted the extra point. All of a sudden, it's 37-34. Wake Forest. But wow, Memphis is not done. Memphis is not done. They had a couple of beautiful pass plays.
And then those last couple of plays were just heartbreaking to watch.
Oh, I take it you were a big Memphis fan, huh, or Wake Forest?
Well, no, I happened to be watching the game yesterday, and I actually caught that fourth quarter, and just seeing how Memphis had the field goal to kind of tie things up, and then it got called back on a penalty, and then they missed the next one, and that wound up being the end of the game for them. And I just kind of felt bad for them because they had such a good season, and they worked so hard. Really, their only setback being losing to Central Florida in their conference championship, and just to see how things kind of fell apart. But that's the whole intrigue about bowl season, is that things like that unexpectedly do seem to happen.
Yeah, and I thought they managed, right, Dave, exactly. I thought they managed to clock beautifully with only having like 35 or 40 seconds to work with. And that first field goal was perfect. And then, I guess there was the timeout was called just before the kick. and then they had to line up again, and I feel so sorry for that. It was either the right end or the right tackle who had a little bit of a false start, and that moved the ball back those 5 yards, and bingo. They weren't able to. That 5 yards made just that much difference for that at the very end for that kick to go just a little bit to the right, and that sealed the victory for Wake Forest.
Yeah, and this victory is huge for Wake Forest because over the last couple of years they've really rebuilt that football program. They're trying to get back to what they used to be in the late 90s and early 2000s. They were never really a powerhouse football program, but they were a team that win 7, 8 games and get a decent bowl game out of it. So it's good to see Wake Forest kind of get their act together nowadays.
Yeah, with 3 consecutive bowl wins, and of course Ron Wellman, the athletic director there at Wake Forest, is an old friend of mine. We met when he was the baseball coach at Northwestern, and we had lunch one day, and he says, Marty, I'm not going to be coaching baseball anymore. And I said, Ron, really? No, I'm going to go into athletic administration. And of course, he went from Northwestern baseball coach to the athletic director at Mankato State, then the athletic director at Illinois State, where he was involved in a lot of controversy because he was the one who fired the very successful Bob Donewald as the basketball coach.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And then, of course, Ron got a great offer at Wake Forest. Ron will retire at Wake Forest. 2 years ago, and these are little innuendos, which I'd like to share with our audience, he headed the committee on the NCAA selection board for all the teams that went to the NCAA tournament. Oh, it was great to see Ron on TV.
That's good.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, Jimmy Caldwell and he were on the athletic staff at Northwestern back in the 80s, and of course, Jimmy served as his head football coach at Wake Forest for a couple of years. And incidentally, Jimmy is going to go back, and he served notice. He's going to go back into coaching next year after a year off. But yeah, that was just a great ball game to watch. The game that really captivated me, though, Dave, did you or any of you gentlemen have an opportunity to watch any of the Army
Houston game? Biggest blowout in the history of bowl games. And guess who took Army to overtime this year?
Gabe, did you get a chance to check out that game?
I did, and I'll tell you what. Army proves that the option can still work in today's game in this era of spread offense. But I mean, give it to them. You take a look at how long the program has been around, and a lot of people think that their heyday was in the 40s and 50s. But this year they reached 11 wins for the first time in program history, and although I do think that if Houston did have Ed Oliver on the defensive line, the game probably wouldn't have been as out of hand as it gotten because he needed to stop some of those run plays. But good win for Army, and I would not be surprised if they end up being a preseason top 25 next year.
Really?
Great win for Army. Army, 5 years, 1 month, 14 days. Hooah! Great to see my team doing that thing out there. 70 points. Are you kidding? 11 wins? Heck yeah, Army. You do your thing.
And just take a look at what they've done over the last couple of years. They beat Navy 3 straight times. Earlier this season, back in September, they took Oklahoma to overtime on Oklahoma's home field, which a lot of people don't understand the magnitude of that because everybody was expecting Oklahoma to just have their way with Army. But Army forced them into overtime, and they only beat them by a touchdown, and they held Oklahoma to just 28 points. So you take a look at how Oklahoma was scoring 40, 50 points pretty much every game after that. The fact that Army held them to 28, that definitely says something about, how disciplined that team is.
And it doesn't say much for Oklahoma going up against Alabama in the college football playoff if Army can do that to their offense.
Exactly.
You fellas bring up some very interesting points. I'm really glad that you were, I really appreciate your very astute commentary on yesterday's game. I enjoyed that game so much yesterday. Today, instead of really paying attention to anything else, I watched the whole game on replay. And was able to pick up some things that I didn't pick up yesterday. For instance, oh my gosh, didn't you fellas enjoy watching the defensive work of that great linebacker, James Knacknagel? Knacknagel. Yes.
I love Knacknagel.
That's a good Scrabble name.
He is a linebacker who's a sprinter on the track team.
Oh, really?
Oh, the guy's incredible.
Close down speed, you think?
For Army?
For Army, yeah.
That will work out well in Afghanistan.
But maybe he'll be out before he gets in. So
but he was incredible to watch. He had in this particular game 4 sacks, 2 tackles for losses, 3 forced fumbles.
Damn.
My God.
Just yesterday?
Yeah, that was just yesterday.
That's like a whole
Yesterday.
season for some guys.
Exactly.
And of course, 14 total tackles in the ball game, which is a brand new career high. He is just sensational, and all the coaches around the country agree. We all know about the top programs and the elite athletes, but this young man could play anywhere.
Neck nickel.
Neck nickel. I wouldn't be surprised.
Neck nickel.
Neck nickel. Neck nickel. That's
Bless
it.
you. Bless you.
Yeah,
Remember that, Gary.
well, actually, I might mispronouncing it. Neck-tiggle, actually. N-A-C-H-T-I-G-A-L. Wouldn't be surprised if after his Army commitment, if we see him playing on Sundays.
Right on.
If you're pulling that kind of
Hey,
stuff.
you know,
You got-
there's probably a few guys on an Army team could play on Sundays, but again, they got to do their military commitment first. I know they've changed how that works now within the last couple of years. I know they made some changes to that. So, you know, if they do get drafted in the NFL, they're probably going to have to wait a little longer than what it used to be. I'm not quite sure what the change was, but I do know they did make some changes as far as that goes. But you know, Army has a few players that could play on Sunday, and you know, I mean, you know, obviously with the service academies, they have height and weight limitations, you know, because they need to be in certain physical shape for their military commitment. But you know, to just seeing the not just the discipline, but the heart that these guys have, and they're fearless. They're not afraid to play anybody.
No, you're absolutely correct. And that young quarterback of theirs who runs that triple option, guys, to perfection, Andre Hopkins. Oh, my God. He was just terrific. Just so much fun to watch. And even their
Hopkins
backup.
was the.
Go ahead.
Oh,
Go ahead, Gabe.
Sorry, Marty. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
No, Gabe, you go ahead.
So Hopkins was the backup quarterback for Army last year, and they would only bring him in for passing plays because, you know, Ahmad Bradshaw was the quarterback last year. Phenomenal player, but not so much of a gifted passer. Hopkins is more of the passer between the two, but then this year he took over as the full starter and shows that he could be a dual threat. Probably doesn't have the arm strength to play in the NFL, but, you know, he completed all three of his pass attempts yesterday.
Yeah.
The running age in the NFL could be well on our way, gentlemen, because
Reasonable than
Hopkins
usual
from
for
the
him,
Army,
by the way.
quarterback from Oklahoma, great runner, and Lamar Jackson. What Lamar Jackson's doing with the Ravens, the running game could come back with a vengeance in the next couple of years in the NFL.
That's right, Kelly. And I want to touch a little bit about the captain of the Army team, Mr. Young man by the name of Bryce Holland. He, senior ball player, probably played his last football game, unless he decides to do something after his military commitment. He's a senior out of Chandler, Arizona. And this young man, I love his priorities. He says, my priorities are first to be a scholar, second to be a soldier, and third to be a football player. Comes from a very, very proud legacy of military people in his family. And my God, he just exemplifies toughness and pride and dedication. And it was just great. This young man, this is almost unheard of at the military academy, especially. As a freshman, he started the Army-Navy game as a freshman at center.
Wow.
That's what a great.
Yeah,
what a
that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen at all. That's hard. That's
that's
a
just
tough man.
incredible. So I'm glad. I just appreciate the commentary. And Jerry, which is interesting. Remember a couple of years ago when we had the radio program, we had as our guest Jim Munkin, who has made a real name for himself in high school coaching. Now helps out over at Highland Park. Well, that's his brother, Jeff Munkin.
Oh, really?
The head coach of the Army.
Really?
Yep. Boy, his commentary at the end of the game. I loved when he said at the end of the interview. He says, "It isn't the best players who win championships; it's the best team
Exactly.
that wins championships."
Exactly.
Oh yeah. And so I'm sure that at some point in time, Coach Munkin will be happy to come on our program.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Oh yeah, just that whole ball game yesterday was just absolutely incredible.
Well,
and you know, before we leave this game, I want to say something about the young quarterback for Houston. And I don't know, fellas, if probably so many people by the end of that ball game weren't watching very closely. But I love the way this young man at the very end showed some real toughness, some guile, and some leadership when he has an opportunity at the end there. He's got the ball. He's ball deep in Army territory. He could have gone right and gone out of bounds and avoid a big hit, but instead he goes to the left, makes the decision that he's going to attack that Army defense. He dives and he scores a touchdown, and to me, that has set the tone for the rest of his college career.
Nice. Marty B, the man on the street, breaking it down, the bowl games left to right. There's much.
Can I ask a quick question?
There is so much to say about these bowl games.
You know how many bowl games there are altogether?
About 70?
No. There's actually 39, not including the championship game. It's 78 teams.
There were seems like 70.
Okay, there were 82 teams. There were 6-6 this year, so 4 teams didn't make it.
Right.
So it was Miami, Ohio, Wyoming, Southern Miss, and Louisiana Monroe. So I would say they should either let everybody get in, and I don't mean to disrespect the bowl games.
No.
But I mean, I'm at a Hackney's, and Marshall and South Florida are on. I mean, I don't know, except for the alumni of those schools.
Right, exactly.
You know, and I'm going to make my point. I mean, sometimes now the Rose Bowl's in the semifinals. I mean, this year, thank God, it's the Big Ten champion versus the Pac-12 champion.
Right.
Are you interested in the game? Of course. You're an alumnus.
Of course.
And furthermore, you probably think your school should be in the Final
Four. Right.
So, I mean, there's a lot of things that are wrong with the system, is my point. You have 70 to 82 qualifying teams that made it into a bowl game. There's an argument about the top 4 teams, and they've taken away a little bit of the luster, the granddaddy of them all, when they put it in the semifinals. But that's just me. It's an editorial. I think the system's broken, and I appreciate your passion for some of these games. But I mean, I don't know. The Army and the Houston alumni cared about that game.
Right.
I don't know what the ratings were like.
Right.
But again, I think
the only thing.
Well, I guarantee you, the Army alumni sure did.
Right, the alum of the respective schools, they definitely are tuned in. They care about it. And that's a very valid point. The other side of it is gambling and the bettors. Their lines, their spreads, and there are people who
it's TV.
Right.
Yeah,
because a lot of times you see, especially in recent years with these bowl games, stadiums half empty.
Right.
But they can sell the advertising. Even if they have crap ratings, they can sell the advertising.
Like Elk Grove.
Elk Grove.
Bahamas, baby.
They've got an ad in the Final Four.
The mayor donated or appropriated $300,000 in advertising.
Exactly.
How many suburbs do people know from a bowl game? Not too many.
Not at all.
I'm waiting
Hey,
for the
Gabe
El Segundo
Delgado,
Bowl.
guys, let's transition because you're short on time. Let's transition to the Final Four, the playoff picture regarding Alabama, Clemson, Oklahoma, and the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame.
That's Saturday, by the way.
Gabe Delgado, what are your thoughts on the Final Four teams?
Well, I'll tell you what, Notre Dame, if they can find a way to keep Clemson's defensive line from getting to Ian Book, they'll have a much easier task at hand. But that's going to be the big concern, is how does Notre Dame's offensive line, which has put out a lot of NFL prospects over the past few years, go up against probably the best defensive line in the country in Clemson, and that's pretty much the backbone of their defense. If they can find a way to keep Ian Book upright and create, a few holes from the running game, I think that Notre Dame has a chance. If not, it's going to be a long day for the Irish. As far as Clemson and Alabama goes, I'm going to have to go with Kelly. I don't think Oklahoma's going to be able to put up 40, 50 points against the Crimson Tide. They're that good on defense. And, I think that's probably going to be the lower scoring of the games. But, in the end, if I could easily see another Clemson-Alabama final unless Oklahoma and Notre Dame could find a way to pull out a victory, because this is going to be the biggest challenge of the year for the Irish, no doubt.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And I think we talked about the bettors, we talked about the fan base. This is college football, the semifinals, and of course the national championship. People want to see, at the end of the day, I think, and Kelly, you can jump in, guys, jump in. I think people, at the end of the day, they want to see Alabama #1 and #2 Clemson square off to see who's the best in the country. And Alabama, it's unbelievable. Nick Saban has done a fantastic job, and as far as recruiting is concerned, again, they have a top recruiting class. They had the early signing day this past week, and they got a few more blue chippers coming to Alabama, but clearly, it'll be a more entertaining game between Alabama and Clemson, but I just don't see how Alabama. I just don't see how they can fall.
You know what, Jerry? Marvelous is right. This system is absolutely broken. Notre Dame should not be in the top 4 with their strength of schedule. Yeah, they're 11-0, but so is University of Central Florida. And I would really like to see a game between UCF and Notre Dame to actually see how they would do. Notre Dame's going to get killed by Clemson because they're not close to the talent level with Alabama or Clemson. Oklahoma, I don't think they're gonna. I think the game will be over by halftime between those two, because what Oklahoma did against Army, Alabama's gonna copy it, and Alabama has better players. So yeah, like you said, Alabama and Clemson in the finals.
Well, you know what? Notre Dame, they Central Florida. I don't think that they could match up against Notre Dame. Notre Dame, you're right. Their strength of schedule. You know, it's the weakest one of all four teams in the finals. But Central Florida, I saw them play. Gabe, you were at that game, right? That's the game they played Illinois at Soldier Field, right?
No, that was South Florida, Jerry.
Oh, South Florida. I'm thinking South Florida. But I saw Central Florida, and they just don't. Their strength of schedule is. Are you kidding me? So, I mean, Notre Dame shouldn't be there. I'm surprised, and not just the fact that the Buckeyes won the Big Ten title, but for 3 straight years you leave a Big Ten team out. That's kind of ridiculous in my regard. And Notre Dame being an independent school, you know, yeah, going undefeated, but again, you're right as far as the cream puffs or the soft schedule that they have. But if that's what the committee decided, it's ratings, money, gambling, well-traveled alumni base, and that's why you see these 4 teams.
Well, I'm going to say something. I'm going to break in right now.
Okay.
Excuse me.
They're going to have to expand the playoff at some point because, you know, just like you said, 3 straight years a Big Ten team was left out. But let's not forget, for 3 straight years, a Big 12 team was left out too. And how many times have we seen 2 SEC teams in the playoff every year? So they're going to have to expand the playoff to try to at least, you know, try to solve this problem.
The SEC is probably deserved, though, honestly.
True.
Marty, what do you got?
Gentlemen, I'm going to go out on a limb.
Here's Marty.
I'm going to go out on a limb. Oklahoma is going to beat Alabama in, I guess, probably have to say a major upset. Notre Dame, because I don't really see any flaws in their team, and I realize about the strength of schedule, Notre Dame is going to knock off Clemson. It is going to be an Oklahoma Notre Dame final for the national championship. And for us old-timers, it's going to remind us back in the 1950s when Bud Wilkinson at Oklahoma had a 50-game winning streak, and Terry Brennan and the Notre Dame Fighting Irish knocked them off 7-0.
Did you right here?
Relax. Relax, buddy. The veins are popping out of your neck. You picked the Bears to lose to the Rams and the Vikings, too.
All that. I saw the veins popping out of his head. I thought it was Barry Switzer.
Hey, I'm paid to be controversial, and I've been booed in bigger cities.
Well, hey, Gabe, any closing thoughts before we get out of here, buddy?
Really quick, let's just touch on Northwestern. New Year's Eve, they play in the Holiday Bowl against Utah. I've seen both teams up close and personal, and Utah, I saw at the beginning of the season when they came to Northern Illinois, they're going to have the hard-nosed aggressive defense that likes to fly to the football, that likes to put pressure on the quarterback. If Northwestern can find a way to navigate through Utah's defense, they'll have a chance. You know, Utah's kind of shorthanded on offense because of some injuries that they've had late in the season, but they're still, you know, a formidable offensive team. But the main thing is their defense, and that's what Northwestern has to watch out for when the Holiday Bowl comes around on New Year's Eve.
Do you think Northwestern will win that game, Gabe?
If they do, it's going to be by a very slim margin because, like I said, Utah's defense is probably one of the better defenses in college football, and they definitely it was their defense that's gotten them through the last few weeks of the season because they've had injuries to their starting quarterback and starting running back, both in I want to say it was either the same game or consecutive games at the beginning of November. So to lose your 2 top offensive players in the same season is always rough, but it was their defense that carried them to the Pac-12 South and to the Pac-12 championship game, although they did fall to Washington. Otherwise, they would have been in the Rose Bowl instead of Washington. But Utah's defense is definitely going to present a challenge for Northwestern.
Yeah, they're certainly looking forward to taking on Pat Fitzgerald's Northwestern football team.
This will be Clayton Thorson's last game. What has he been there, 10 years?
2 terrific coaches, that's for sure. May I just a final thought here? Do I have a chance for that, Jerry?
Real quick, Kelly, what do you have real quick before we get out of here?
I really appreciate being here in this show. This year has been amazing. I have never done a sports show for this long. I mean, other than in my basement talking to the rat, I've never actually had a chance to, give my sports opinion and actually have people listening to it. So you guys are beautiful people. Thank you for having my dumb ass on with you. And bear down, Chicago Bears, baby. Oh, by the way, Wednesday I'll be performing in Skokie, Bar Louie and Skokie. Come see me, Bar Louie and Skokie. I'll be there from 7 to 9 doing some stuff.
Oh, I'll be over there, buddy. I'll be over there. Marty B, what do you got?
Which night is this?
Wednesdays.
Wednesday night.
Oh, Wednesday night.
Okay.
Bar Louie.
Okay.
Let's make a plan to get over there.
Yes.
Marty B, what do you got? The man on the street.
This is very, very important. After all said and done about all the bowl games, I love that Lockheed Martin bowl game because yesterday there's two things that touched my heart. One brought me to tears. First of all, when a young lady by the name of where do I have her name here? Excuse me here. Oh, Jerry, I'll to turn it back to you. I'm so sorry. No, very young lady. I got it right here. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, about the delay. Regina Marie Carroll. She was deployed for 2 years. Yesterday, the camera was on her. Her daddy had not seen her in 2 years. And Jerry, having two beautiful daughters like you do, you could definitely relate to this. It was such an emotional scene to see her in her Army attire, kissing and hugging her daddy. It was a very emotional moment. That was one point. And the second situation that moved me totally was when Sergeant Mathis, who lost 2 legs in combat, a Santa Claus came out with an ultra-modern, can do everything wheelchair to make this man's life much more comfortable.
Wow.
Those were 2 very touching scenes. Father and daughter being reunited after 2 years, and then Sergeant Mathis receiving that wheelchair, and to see him get up and the Santa helping him in it, I was moved.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And just the picture that you painted, it moves me as well. And I'm sure it moves our listeners and our viewers. Guys, it's the fastest 2 hours in sports conversation. We can do this all day, all night. And like Kelly said, we live in the greatest country in the world and the greatest city in the world just outside it. And it almost can't get any better than this, where you get an opportunity just to sit around with some good friends and just talk sports, whether we disagree or differ or have a different opinions. It's just fun to be able to do this and just have a good time with each other, and especially around this holiday season. So I want to say thank you guys for the contributions and being a part of the Rewind Sports 60 over the past year or so, and Danny Carlino, of course, being a part since pretty much the start of this thing. And Kelly, thank you for joining us, Gabe as well. But we got a lot more in store, and 2019 is looking very, very good for what we're doing here. So I want to say thank you guys, and have a very, very Merry Christmas. Enjoy your family and your friends, and let's come back strong next week to close out a fabulous show at a fabulous place here at Ciaranello's Restaurante. Okay.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Guys,
Bear down.
Yeah, and then just want to mention a lot of holiday basketball, high school this week. Wheeling, Proviso West, Hinsdale, Pontiac, a lot of great games. I'll cover them for you.
Yeah, Danny and I will be at that Hinsdale basketball tournament.
I'm going to be at all 4.
That'll boy, Dan.
I'm just looking forward to maybe if they do expand the college bowls, that we can get another suburb to get involved with. At Elk Grove, make
or a bowl game at Wrigley Field.
No, I want a Serpico Field. I want the Melrose Park Bowl. How about that?
Hey!
Be a lot of action on that one. I'll just leave
on
it
that
there.
page.
I'll just leave it there. I might have to expand the stands a little bit.
I mean,
Why not? Yeah. It's right off the 25th. Just have a nice day.
Well, guys, thank you
we can
so
go to
very
Subway
much.
for food afterwards.
Have a great rest of your day. Have a great week. Merry Christmas. Be safe. Safe travels. You eat a lot. Try to get a little bit of exercise in there. And we'll see everyone next week right here at Ciaranello's Restaurante Italiano to close out 2018. Take care, everybody.